So, I forgot what I was talking about. Cool. Good way to start. It's echoey and it's late and I'm very tired. Oh, yeah, compatibility versus chemistry. I feel like this is something I've been working on for a couple of years, like 4 years. So I feel like I really understand it and that it's silly that I took that long to understand it. But I also searched up my previous stuff and I apparently have not talked about it before. That's why it was on my list to talk about. But it feels weird to talk about it right now in a way, but also kind of perfect timing in a way. And that's enough of an intro about that. So, with different relationships, hopefully you learn different things while you're in them or possibly while you're out of them. And one of the things that I took a long time to learn, specifically, well, no, not specific. As for most things, it's not specific to romantic relationships, even though it might sound like that, because this definitely goes for friendship as well. And I'll give some examples of that. But I feel like compatibility and chemistry are two very separate, different things that I just took a long time to realize are different things. I just kind of focused on chemistry without ever thinking of compatibility. And that's dumb. So, especially in what you would want in a partner, like a romantic partner or a long-term partner or a whatever, romantic relationship that is meant to be long-term. And yeah, I just didn't think of it. I just didn't think of it for years and years of my dating life. I was like, oh, we have good chemistry, and chemistry is more than one thing. So part of it was like sense of humor, chemistry, like do we just get along well just on the day-to-day, we like make each other laugh, we communicate okay, we seem to like understand each other, there's like physical chemistry, and I think that was one of the things I was focused on more than anything, was like, do we have physical chemistry? Because if we don't, this doesn't work, so therefore it's important. But obviously, that's stupid for that to be the focus. I would say it is, I might give it 50%, you know? But, like, that doesn't mean that if something else is 70%, like, I don't know how to explain that. Saying 50% is dumb. I just mean that, like, it's equally important as compatibility. And if you're lacking one or the other, it won't work. You could have amazing chemistry, whether it be sense of humor or if we just focus on physical chemistry between two people, and if you're actually seeking a long-term, relationship, then you need compatibility too. And if you don't have that, but you have physical chemistry, well, I just don't think it's going to work. And vice versa. The opposite is very, very apparent if physical chemistry is even a thing. I mean, if you were like asexual or something, and there's obviously different degrees of that, but if there wasn't a reason for you in your relationship to need that physical chemistry to be compatible with each other, then it wouldn't be important. It wouldn't matter. And then the other types of compatibility would matter more. And I mean, and that's the thing, is if I think about like physical compatibility or sexual compatibility, like I could use that language rather than just saying chemistry. But chemistry just seems to fit better because it's something that, like, within the context and colloquialisms that we speak about it, it's a different thing. It's like, it just seems to fit better of like, do we have chemistry? Does this feel right? Whereas I think that's the chemistry to me is more of a feeling and compatibility is more of like logic. So chemistry just, it feels good together, it feels right, it makes sense, it just like, I don't know. Like, I mean, that's like when people say like, oh, like sparks or whatever, or like you just feel passion and heat with that person, or like it just flows well. And I don't know. I'm trying to over-explain chemistry. Like a lot of times I approach these conversations like someone doesn't know what the hell I'm talking about, and half of the time it's me. But yeah. So chemistry was a big focus in that type of relationship for me, and I wasn't thinking about compatibility in all these other ways that are really important, right? Like thinking about like, well, what are your values? What are the things that you seek in a partner for long term? And you need to actually not get carried away with the amount of chemistry you have, and apply these other things, these other values, or these maybe like deal breakers, or just, yeah, things that you need in a relationship that aren't part of the chemistry of just like, okay, for example, one thing that I really value in a person is like drive, like I don't know what else you want to call it, like a certain amount of discipline and determination, and what's another synonym for this? Ambition, I guess. A drive to be productive, to get things done, to not just go through the motions and do the bare minimum in their life. I want someone who is to use like buzzwords, I guess, like a lifelong learner is, you know what I mean? Like, I want someone who's got growth mindset. Like, those are things that, like, we might have this other type of chemistry, but if you don't have this stuff, we're not going to be compatible long term, because long term, you need more than just physical chemistry, or just laughing at the same stuff, or whatever, right? More than just that connection you might make when you look in someone's eyes, even though that also, to me, is equally important for this type of relationship. So I just wasn't really focused on compatibility that much for a really long time, when I should have been, and I just made, like, again, this is like 4 years ago, I started to make this real big realization, like, I am an idiot, and I really need to pay attention to that, because I say they're equal because I believe they are equal. However, chemistry, to me, is a lot easier to figure out. Like, in a short amount of time, I really feel confident that I know that I have chemistry with someone or not. Like, again, it's a feeling thing, and then you've got to ask if you can trust your feelings, I guess. But if we are trusting our feelings, it's a feeling that you can have, and it's just like, yeah, that's, whatever you want to call it, you feel that chemistry is there, and it works, and it's present and strong. But compatibility, on the other hand, is different. It takes a different kind of trust, I think, too. Because sometimes people like the idea of something when they don't like that thing. So it's like, I could like the idea of eating healthy. Let's use that as an example, because let's get real. But do I actually like eating healthy? And I can make an argument that I do, but then there's like costs, and there's time, and there's like whatever. There's financial costs, there's the cost of time, there's other things that like I take into account, and I don't want to spend my time that way, whatever it is, right? But some people have that discrepancy with other things too. Like, oh, if you value learning, like maybe you really like the idea of learning, but you don't want to put in the hard work to actually learn about yourself or other things that you should be learning about and better yourself as a person. You just like the idea of it. So you could have conversations with somebody and they could tell you all the right things, and you could base your relationship on that a little bit, and it takes a while before you can actually see the fruits of that. Like, for some of those things, like, someone can just tell you things because it's not necessarily that they're misrepresenting themselves on purpose. It's that they genuinely believe those things, that they value those things, but they don't value them enough to actually do them, and they don't even recognize that they really just like the idea of those things, not the actual things. So that's something that happened, and that I'm sure happens to other people too, is that, they take a long, it can take a long time to find compatibility, and conversation is a big part of that, is asking the right questions and like having big conversations and talking lots. But again, someone might misrepresent themselves, not even like sometimes on purpose, I'm sure it happens, but also it might just be that they misrepresent themselves by accident because they really think that they value that thing that they clearly don't, because they don't spend enough time doing that thing. Okay, so what do you do with that? Again, it takes time. You have to get past those conversations, and that's why compatibility has been so hard for me to like figure, or like to put enough importance on before I commit to somebody, because it's like the speed at which things move, to me, usually it's chemistry that drives that. And this is the other thing, man, I am getting to a place that I didn't know I was going to get to. So like, in an old-fashioned sense, I think a lot of people didn't even play with their chemistry or try to explore chemistry until they figured out compatibilities sometimes. Obviously, there's different whatever, and different cultures and time periods, and where different things were the norm and whatever, and marrying for love even is just like a newer thing, whatever. But I know that it's also a thing where some people just like really, like friends first, right? Like some people go by that, like friends first, And I've never been that way because chemistry is incredibly important to me, and it's also really easy to figure out. And let's face it, it's fun. So it's not like it's not fun to have conversations and figure out compatibility. But that's the thing that I learned. Figuring out compatibility and whether or not you can believe in it or not or trust it goes far beyond having conversations. You need to live it with that person. And sometimes it's like, I just like, I feel like if I can go back in time and if I really focused on those things more, like maybe there would have been red flags here or there, but it's like you invest a certain amount of time with somebody and it's really hard to like be like, hold on, we need to pump the brakes here because I just realized we're not compatible at all. Like that should be something that you could figure out soon. And sometimes it is. If the incompatibilities are strong enough, then of course they're just like huge red flags, or you're just like, that's not going to work for me, that's a deal breaker, whatever else, right? So the earlier you have those conversations in a way, the better. I like those conversations. I think they're fun. Getting to know people is fun. Getting to know people through chemistry is also fun. But like having genuine, good conversation, I really enjoy. So I need to focus getting to know somebody on that more than the chemistry, because for me, once chemistry is found, it's hard to let the equally important component of compatibility dictate the fate of that relationship. I mean, it'll dictate the fate of the relationship no matter what, but it's difficult to use compatibility against what could be great chemistry and say, this doesn't work, but this does work, this is what I need to listen to, and that's going to cancel all this out, and the relationship can't be. But if you didn't explore this that much in the first place and you don't know that it's great, then like this thing is a lot easier. Like if this isn't good, if the compatibility isn't good, then you don't even have to think about this. You're not like sacrificing this because you haven't really explored it. But that's hard to do, man. Like part of it is a cultural thing, part of it is just me as a person thing that it's really difficult for me to do. And that's just a realization I'm just making, as much as I said, like I thought I figured all this stuff out like in the past 4 years, I guess not enough. So I'm still figuring things out, which is why this conversation's happening. It's really hard. It's really hard to just ignore this for me. Like the chemistry, to me they're just very, very equal, but one gets figured out a lot sooner. But then again, if you don't have physical chemistry, then it'd be easy just with okay, well, we don't even need to figure out compatibility because this thing doesn't work. But it usually doesn't. Yeah. Anyway. So I also mentioned that, this is about I guess it's compatibility versus chemistry, but really the compatibility is the thing I've had an issue with for a long time. And it has just affected friendships too. So for example, there's just like people in my life that I was friends with for years and years. And we had great chemistry as friends, like platonic friends, of just like we laughed a lot and we had fun together, and just mostly based around the things that we laughed about and like how we could just laugh and, shoot shit and have a good time doing this, that, or whatever. But eventually my needs changed and I realized that that wasn't my only criteria for friendship. I realized at some point that my friendships weren't compatible because I need those things, the same things that I need in a partner I found that I needed with friends too. Is that like, I need someone who's going to challenge me. I need someone who's going to who focuses on themselves, growing as a person, because that automatically challenges me. Having a great friend group that you keep in touch with, just seeing what they're doing and how they're pushing forward in their life can inspire you to do better. And having people that don't necessarily do those things, that doesn't help. So, and also you might not have these in-depth, deeper conversations that would lead to, those things that you want to, whether challenging yourself or someone challenging you, and what you would get out of conversations. Like, again, growth mindset stuff, having drive and ambition and determination to do whatever, self-betterment stuff. Like, if someone doesn't really have that, for me, even as a friend, we wouldn't be compatible as friends. Like, there's just layers to relationships. And, like, maybe an acquaintance, someone that I don't spend a lot of time with, I don't invest in a lot, but every once in a while, or like a work friend that you're friendly at work, and maybe you do something outside of work, but maybe it doesn't go beyond every once in a while you have a beer together or have a coffee or something, like that could happen. So there's obviously layers to different things, but that's the thing, is like knowing what your criteria is for a relationship. That's like the subtext, I guess, of this, the underlying theme of this conversation is like, what is your criteria for different kinds of relationships? What is it that you value? And once you figure that out, applying that and figuring out how to figure it out, like figuring out what you need, but then also figuring out how you get that, how you get to know that about a person. It's like, how do you even figure out if you're compatible, and how to do it in a timely fashion, but how to do it in a thorough and full fashion, so you also don't, what I call leaving money on the table. So you don't walk away from something that could have been either a great friendship or romantic relationship because you judged it too quick. So you want to explore it fully, but you don't want to hurt anyone in the process, including yourself, which is a huge problem for me. Is like, again, with that chemistry piece, is like it's really quick to figure that out. And for me, physical chemistry ends up being pretty tied to emotional aspects for me, usually. So it's like, if I figure this out too soon and too fully and thoroughly before I figure out compatibility, and the compatibility is like, this isn't going to work, you need to get out of here, then like it becomes hard. So trying to figure things out in a balanced way, in a genuine way, but I don't want to say in a quick way, but also like in a way that you're not investing too much before you might have to say no, and this isn't going to work for me. Anyway, those are some things that I've been struggling with, learning about, I don't know, in myself for the past like 4 years of really figuring that out. Things that I felt like I should have figured out like 10 years ago, but you know, this is what happens, and that's it. We'll see you in another time.